the dumb people will actually think you're serious.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if I
All right,
invited
we just
David,
started.
my late teens.
Pardon me?
Want to get started?
Absolutely. Is the mic on?
Yep, it's on.
Yeah.
It's all you.
Excellent, excellent. Good evening, everyone. And we're running late, which seems to be the way it's been in 2016, but we're trying awfully hard to get it done. We think we have it this month, so if you're watching this, you can make comments down below, which is wonderful. And this is the platform that we hope to be able to expand on and grow with in 2017. Welcome to RE-Mark 2017. Welcome to RE-Mark TO, I'm sorry. We're the number one group for sales and marketing advice and talks in North America, really. We've got almost 1,800 members now, which is just amazing. Tonight, we're experimenting with a new technology platform, and so we're in a secret location. We're broadcasting from a secret location in Mississauga. And we don't have any guests in the room. All we have are our panelists. And we're really blessed because we're reviewing 2016, looking forward to 2017. And we thought it might be interesting to have, Addie, can you come in or no?
Yeah, in a second. I'm trying to do something.
So we thought it'd be interesting to have a couple of different perspectives and an interesting conversation. Tonight, well, he just left, so tonight,
Gotta close the door.
well, thank you, Adam.
You're welcome.
Tonight, on my left is Otto Topaz, is that how you say it?
Topuz. Yeah.
Topuz,
Yeah.
and who's the owner and CEO and founder of
I gotta open up the door for somebody else. 1 second.
Otto's the owner of Agent Locator, a phenomenal lead generation website and platform for real estate agents, specifically for real estate agents all over North America, but they focus in Toronto. We also have with us tonight Nelson Goulart. Nelson is broker of record for Better Homes and Gardens. I think most people in the community are going to know who Nelson is. He takes part a lot. but he's a very progressive real estate broker. And as a member, or if I could say it this way, being involved with a major North American franchise as opposed to a major Canadian franchise gives Nelson insights into our industry that a lot of people just don't get all the time. So it's really nice to have him here to share some of his ideas with us.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Nelson. And we're also very pleased to have Sandra Jackson. Sandy J, for those on Real Estate Corner, is with us tonight. And Sandy is here as an experienced agent. She's been in the business longer than a lot of that I want to say out loud anyway. And she's here to share some of her insights, some of her wisdom. And if anybody who's watched Sandy online knows that she shares a lot. She's always open and willing to share. And I do a lot of I don't want to use the word trolling, but I do a lot of just watching online. And Sandy is very, very rarely how would I say this? I very rarely disagree with Sandy. I think she's right almost all the time. And so it'd be nice to have her here with us tonight. Really pleased. Thanks for coming, Sandy. And our fourth member is going to be Jason Power. He's a new agent. He's only been in the business less than a year. But Jason has to present an offer tonight, so we're hoping he'll show up before we're finished. But anyway, if he doesn't get here, well, we were hoping to have a young agent's perspective. We may have to do without that tonight. So, Addie, do you want to come over?
I'm here. I'm here. I can chime in.
So say something smart, Addie.
I got
Something
nothing
smart.
to say.
We've had a real, it's been quite a day for us.
Well,
folks.
Addie's back there working on a bunch of technology that I think is really cool to all of us, isn't it, Nelson?
Absolutely,
When we take a look
yeah.
at it, that was really interesting to see how that works. So we can't wait to review what that's going to look like, and that's all going to be on you, Addie. Can the camera see you at all, Addie, or no?
No, I'm still trying to work that out right now. I'm still trying to figure all that stuff out.
Okay, we're going to have to get a rotating camera one of these
Yeah,
days.
well,
and,
This
Yeah.
is something you couldn't see 2 years ago.
No.
The technology that we're just using here now that's so easily manageable.
and
is
we're
just
the
amazing.
first ones testing it out, right?
This is
So
the first
we're
night. This is the first night,
testing
and
it.
truthfully, I'm not aware of anybody else in Canada who's using this platform. I'm really not. It's
Yeah.
been we're kind of just flying by the seat of our pants. And we spent a lot of time trying to make it work, and we think it's going to work. We think it's going to work. So tonight's just going to be a relaxed conversation. That's all it's going to be, folks. Okay.
Okay.
And I hadn't intended to sit at the table, but I'm going to be here for a little while by the looks of it. So we're going to start off by looking back is the idea, and then looking forward. So looking back, if I can ask you, Adam, first. In 2016, there was a lot of changes in technology, a lot of changes, real estate specific technology. And you work with a lot of different agents, and I'm sure you've seen some that have been extremely successful and some that have struggled. Right?
Absolutely.
So if you could give one piece of advice or make one observation, your choice, for 2016, what would you think is one of the most profound things you've witnessed this year?
One of the most profound things I think when it comes to technology specifically is anybody who gets into internet lead generation with the concept and the thought that they are going to qualify leads by email only is the most wrong way to get about it. If you're not prepared to sit there and make a whole bunch of phone calls, you should not get into internet leads at all. And one of the other things that I really want to mention is anybody who wants to get into internet leads and try to capture as much business from the internet side of it, I really don't think they should be doing it unless they've tried cold calling first. And if you haven't tried cold calling to see how hard it is, then you're kind of setting yourself up for failure when it comes to internet leads. So my suggestion to everybody for 2017 is, if you really want to get into internet leads, before you get into internet leads, get on the phone. Call 100 people before you try internet leads.
What kind of return are we getting off of internet leads? Like, so if I signed up to a system, what can I reasonably expect? And
Well, what are you aiming for? So let's say, I'm going to say this. So what agents typically aim for are big teams or people who have, who really know what they're doing with internet leads, specifically conversion, meaning that I know what I need to do from the point of a lead coming in to the point of the lead getting out to actually look at properties, which is how many times I'm going to call it, what I'm going to say to it, practice my speech many times, and we're aiming for 6%. So
is that scrubbed or unscrubbed?
this is a lead off the internet is not scrubbed.
Okay.
There is no scrubbed leads. You scrub them.
Okay.
So it's the agent's job to scrub every internet lead that comes in. So scrubbing leads, typically you want to find an ISA, which is an inside salesperson that's going to be qualifying the leads. Now, if you're an individual agent or you're by yourself, you don't have anyone to scrub your leads for you, then you are the scrubber. You are the person that's supposed to qualify these leads. Knowing that when you get internet leads, you're going to be getting into leads that are probably about 30% fake, with having Joe Schmo names, anything out there. So 30% of your business, or 30% of your leads, you're gonna throw out, and it's just gonna be cost of doing business. That's all it is. But our aim is to convert about 6% of all the leads that come in. Now, we have agents, and many of them, who convert within the very first 4 months of the lead coming in, they convert 3%. And then within 18 months of that lifetime of that lead, they want to convert another 3% to attain that 6% conversion ratio. However, having said that, the number of agents that attain that and the number of teams that attain that is so low that if a regular agent gets into internet leads within the first year, if they convert about 1.5%, they're good.
It's funny that you say that, because last week I was at a seminar, and one of the things we talked about, it was all about teams. And they talked about how 75% of the business is done from the traditional ways, repeat, referral, all of those things. But he came up with an interesting stat on stage, one of the speakers on the panel, and they said, but those agents who work internet leads, or that 16% who work internet leads, 60% of their business comes from the lead follow-up and managing, which I thought that was very interesting, because we keep talking about just the traditional role, and in this case you've got a small percentage doing a large part of their business from that. Is that kind of in line with your numbers?
Well, we don't know what percentage of business an agent does from internet leads, because we really just help them generate leads.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know, because I don't own a brokerage, nor do I intend to own a brokerage. I don't know what percentage of their business is from us, but we do have our clients telling us what, on average what percentage is, and they span anywhere from 10 to 100%. So I don't suggest that an agent gets into only internet leads and stay with internet leads. I think they should definitely kind of span out, do some door knocking, do some cold calling, do some internet leads. So have a variety of different avenues of lead generation. But what's nice about internet leads is once you figure it out, once you know what that formula is to convert, then you can just open up the tab. Meaning that just have more and more and more leads pouring through, because internet is all about quantity. It has nothing to do with quality. You make quality into you make quantity into quality, but you're going to get it. If you want to generate 1,000 leads next month, you can off the internet.
That's when you talk about conversion. That's one of those words that everyone's got a different
Yeah,
meaning for
yeah,
it, right?
yeah.
It's like when some people say conversion, a lead's converted when they click through. Some will say it's converted when they give you an email address.
Sure.
Some will say it's converted when you actually get a paycheck.
Yeah.
So do you guys have a definition, or is it possible to measure how many leads you have to get before you actually start making some money?
Well, that depends on the agent.
Fair enough.
One of the things over the past 6 years that I've been into the first year for me was the hardest. We were generating a lot of leads and really not knowing what to expect from these leads. I personally didn't even know. I've never been in real estate, never done a transaction in my life, never wanted to become a real estate agent. I'm a geek by trade. That's what I do. And I know internet marketing. So knowing what I know from that side, when we got into internet leads, I really didn't know what it took to convert internet leads. And when I got the first 100 leads, that's how we started selling lead by lead. And when we got a few agents, we would have a huge cancellation ratio. We had over 70% of our clients canceling the service because they couldn't convert. So what I did then is I actually set up my own. Well, first what I did is I called all those agents to find out why did they fail. And I called the 30% that stayed on it, what they did to actually make it work. And figured out the number one failure with internet leads was with the agents. It was them that was failing to call, failing to qualify. So what I did is I set up a call center. I had 9 people from 9 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock at night calling and qualifying internet leads for real estate agents. Until Rico served us with a cease and desist letter. And they served us with a cease and desist letter for practicing real estate without a license. However, we were not. I mean, we had a lawyer come in, look at everything we were doing, and after reviewing everything, he said, "You're absolutely not working with real estate agents, or you're not taking clients out, so you're not really practicing real estate without a license. So you could pass. However, our clients were at fault because they were using unlicensed people to solicit business for them. So we shut it down completely.
Sure.
We couldn't qualify leads anymore. So we fired all the people that were qualifying leads, and then what we concentrated on is figuring out how do we now help our agents to teach them what we did to help them convert.
So Nelson, people in your office must use the internet to generate leads.
They are, and see, here's the thing, I think it's kind of uncharted territory right now. I think there's a lot of talk about it. I think there's a lot of providers who are providing it, whether Agent Locator and Addo, which do a great job of it, but other companies are in that space as well. And I think that's like kind of the big buzzwords that we're talking about right now. It's like, how do you convert that for the lead generation into teams, for agents, and how do you define the different things, and who are you using as a provider? What are the costs? And agents think it's like, hey, you know what? I'm going to get into lead generation, and that they're going to spend $100, and they get 50 leads come out of it.
It's been like that since 2004.
It's so
That's
true,
right.
though.
We're having
It's
that
so
conversation
true.
now. It's been like that since 2004.
It's so true. But I think it has stepped up, though. I think this past year we've seen more talk of organizational structure around lead generation, talk about an inside sales team to manage that, how you delegate that out. I think there's some structure starting to come around that. And, we've seen some people that are doing a lot of business with that. And so we are seeing an evolution, and I'm not sure where it's going to go or where it's going to end up, but definitely moving a little past that now.
Well, I'm gonna pick on Sandy a little bit to get her input on a lot of the stuff that's going on. So what are your thoughts on technology and what has happened over the past 2016? And where do you see the next change coming through?
For me, I started getting into lead generation, internet, and I'm still the old school. I'm actually preferring the eyeball to eyeball. I'm finding that actually works best for me. The actual get in front of a person, start talking. This afternoon I stopped at Costco on the way out to Nelson's office.
And I'm so glad she said that. I'm sorry to interfere. Well, I'm so glad she said that because she's sticking to what she's good at.
Yeah.
And if anybody who gets into this and thinks they're good at internet leads, but they're not, just give it up. Move on to what works for you and stick to it.
That's what I'm doing. It didn't work for me, and this is what I need. I ended up talking to a woman and giving her my card, and we're talking about laundry, so believe it or not, and I'm not a laundry person, but that was actually the crux of the conversation. But we just got talking, and I asked her what she did for a living. She was in her late 60s, and she would have made a great sales agent, just because she's lively and bubbly and that. And now I have a new client because of it. But it's just, I prefer the one-on-one, talking to the person behind me in the lineup paying for groceries, talking to the person on the corner waiting for a street light. I live in a little village inside a large city. I live in Cabbagetown inside Toronto. And I prefer the one-on-one, the going out and talking to my neighbors, being part of a neighborhood group where we're doing spring cleanup, we're doing planting of community gardens, we're doing that. I'm best one-on-one. I don't find success, I don't know, maybe because I'm against it, it makes me feel uncomfortable, but I don't do cold calling.
Yeah.
I don't see the point in it. Now, granted, I wish I had seen that seminar that was on earlier about the guy that was teaching about cold calling, but I don't do it.
Yeah. And that's because, for you, that's what you found what works for you, and you're utilizing it to the fullest as you can. And I think what the agents really need to do is find what it is that they're good at. Because they cannot spread themselves too thin. They can't spread and do 100 things at the same time because nothing is going to ever get done.
Well, that was what I was thinking, because there's only so many hours in the day.
Yeah.
You need to be spending your hours. It's something that you feel you're getting back.
Makes
You
you-
also, and also that you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
Like open houses,
Yeah.
great at open houses. Come on in, let me show you the place. I know construction, show
Absolutely.
them all about it, talk to them about the neighborhood, the history of it, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But
One of my problems is that a lot of times agents are not actually trying out all the tools that are available.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I learned during my career is actually go out and do everything. I did door knocking, I did cold calling, I did anything that you can think of. You can probably throw at me. I've probably done
tried it.
Yeah, tried it, been there, done that. And what do you see changing in the next coming year? Like, what has changed in 2016 in terms of all the traditional things that we have been doing? So what has changed, and what are the changes that you see coming in the marketplace? I want to pick on Otto a little bit to talk about technology. I know you have some great information to share with everybody over here. Can you chat a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one of the things, I don't know in general what's going to change when it comes to technology, but I know what we're building and what we're going to be putting out there. One of the tools that we're creating is so with talking to a lot of agents, talking to a lot of people who sell specifically in Toronto, one of the things they're saying is people are getting priced out of the market, priced out of Toronto. and it's been really hard for them to find properties within their driving range or within where they want to buy. So what we're actually doing is we already have is we built a tool that will get you to put in, and I'll pull it up here. Are you able to pull up a website and share it on the feed or not? Okay, that's okay. So what we're building is you're going to put in your address of where you work. You're going to put in how long you're willing to travel to go to work. So let's say 30 minutes. And then whether you want to avoid tolls or not. And then once you hit on go, it's going to create a polygon. Just which camera am I on, Addie, so I can show it to people?
Okay, traveling time, yep.
You are on this camera. No, not that one.
He's on this one.
I'm on that one.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me.
I'm gonna zoom in on you so
Okay.
you can see it.
So what you can see here, and Nelson, I don't think you've seen this yet.
No, I haven't.
Okay. So it created a polygon for me. And what that polygon shows is specifically exactly 100% utilizing Google traffic data to find out how far we can go out for 30 minutes. So if I'm willing to travel to work for 30 minutes, it's going to look at all the different levels and streets, specifically where I can actually buy a home.
So big data now.
Yep.
Big data.
So big data is starting to make its entry into
Yes.
the market this year. And I've noticed that even on other platforms, that we're starting to see that.
Yeah, so that's one of the tools we're putting in, and then the way that we're thinking about putting it in, and what we're thinking about calling it is something like, how much of a home can you buy? So if your budget is $500,000 and you live in Toronto and your office is in Toronto, we'll show you that in Toronto you're going to be able to buy a condo. But if you're willing to drive 30 minutes in Ajax, you're going to be able to buy this size of a house, and we'll show all the different homes you're going to be able to buy. And then on top of that, we have made a deal with a company that's going to provide us demographics and some really cool information that we're going to be able to tap into. That's interesting because prior to this, every agent had to get their own account with this company. And what we've done is, and I won't mention the name of the company, but what we've done is made a deal, paid a lot of money to access that data, and then we're going to put it on all of our clients' websites. And on top of that, we're going to integrate it within our search tool. And what that means is you're going to be able to go to our website, specify not only the, how far you want to travel, but whether you want to live in an area where people make $1 million or more, what type of schools there are in that area, and actually be able to create a search off of that, and then also receive updates on new listings as they come out based on all that different demographics.
No, that's really interesting. So basically, it's actually taking away a lot of the time that the agents are spending and
Manual time,
putting all this information in there. So it's actually a really, really cool tool. So that's going to be a game changer. I think it's going to actually bring a lot of flexibility to buyers when they're looking at purchasing a property. They can look at different areas. I really like the idea. Can you talk a little bit more about the pricing out, like how people are getting priced out of the market right now? How can you actually, how would this tool make it a little bit easier for them to actually do that?
Well, sure. So, I mean, one of the, what our clients have been saying to us is when they're looking for a home for people within Toronto, they're having to go look at all over the place. And then what they're doing is they're mapping out how far they're going to travel based on Google. They go to Google Maps, say arrive by 8 o'clock in the morning, and I want to know how far I have to actually travel to work. So they've been doing that manually. And
Cobra's a great place to go for that.
Well, we can pull it out and find out.
Because you're not buying cabbage down for 500.
So anybody who's willing to travel, let's say 50 minutes to work or 45 minutes to work, they have a fairly wide range of area where they can go in. Now, how they've been being priced out of the market, really, I mean, I think Nelson and Jackie might be able to answer that a little bit better in terms of what's been happening with the real estate market and why people have been priced out of the market.
Let's do that. Sandy, what are your thoughts?
Supply. There is none. There is absolutely none. There's nothing available. I feel like I'm holding a gun to buyers' heads, saying it's not enough, it's not enough, it's not enough, and it actually makes me feel a little ill. But then, of course, I also lived through so many different markets where we were holding guns to sellers' heads. You take this, or else the guy down the street will take it.
Yeah.
So we're always the bad guy, but I just feel bad for them. No, you can't have it conditional. No, you can't have it. You can have an inspection, but you're going to be spending $750 to inspect this and not get it. And then you're spending $750 to the next one and not get it. It's just, and I don't see this improving at all because with the land transfer tax, with all the costs of moving In the old days, people upgraded every 2.5 to 3 years.
Right.
I've got clients that haven't moved in 30 years. Like, come on, guys. But people are now staying put. And the money that they would have paid us, the money that they would have paid in land transfer tax on the next house, they're just saying, fine, we'll sink it into this one. And they're improving what they have. So they're not budging. And if they don't budge, we can't get the,
And to your point, actually, I have a question. I'm not sure whether anybody knows the stat yet or not. When you compare the listings to last year, how many less? Do we have a lot less
Well,
listings this year?
significantly less.
yes.
Right across the
Yes.
province, right across the
Yeah,
province.
yeah.
You see it driving around.
18 to 20% lower.
At least.
Yeah.
Depending on the market, yeah, there's even greater than that.
Yeah.
But what I've really noticed this year in watching the numbers that they've been kind of coming through, as opposed to the consistent growth that we've had over previous years, this year it's been a little bit more alarming because the jumps have been quantum. Like I'm talking like substantial jumps in the same marketplace month over month, whereas before it may have taken you 6 months to a year to see some growth in that. You're seeing some substantial jumps this year that are alarming.
Just to be clear, just the jumps are in numbers of,
In the sold prices.
the numbers of
Sold
sold
prices.
prices.
And,
Sold
yeah,
prices, yeah.
sold prices and percentages are up dramatically over last
So
year.
volume is up as well?
Volume has been up, and I wish I had brought the stats with me today, but
No, it's just general
the percentages were up both in unit sales and in. But what was really troubling for me wasn't just the percentage increase in unit sales. For me, what's troubling is the quantum leaps in the same type of markets in a period of just 2-3 months.
At the same time as inventory is shrinking.
Exactly.
So Nelson, how much of it do you attribute to the taxes that are coming into Vancouver? Do you think that has any impact on Toronto real estate?
I don't think it's had any impact yet, and I think we as we've seen, it's a very different market, the Ontario market, than the BC market. How we're regulated, how we're governed, it's all very, very different. But I think we're our own engine here. I think immigration's played a key part in it. Low interest rates have played a key part in it. So I think there's a lot of factors that have been pushing that, and I think we're at a precarious stage right now. We're at that stage where we've seen these quantum leaps this year. We've seen that there's still an activity in the market, but the government intervened, and now their changes in mortgages and stress tests and raising the interest rates, they're playing with that a little bit. So it's interesting to see where that's going to take us in the coming year.
Sandy, any thoughts?
I think it's going to be more jittery next year with the threats of interest rates, with people wanting to get, more and more buyers are wanting to get into the market because they're tired of paying the rents, especially now that there's no rent controls on anything after 1991. They're now seeing the effect of that. Landlords are saying, gee, the market rate is now $500 a month more than what you're paying, you're out. They don't care. And buyers are also seeing their friends, oh, my house is now worth this, my house is now worth that, okay, we need to buy. So more buyers are wanting to jump in, but there's nothing there for them. And
There's nothing there for them.
yeah, there's nothing there for them, they're still looking, and there's more and more jumping in, looking. So I think it's gonna be a very jittery year. Sellers are going to be sitting there watching to see what happens to the market. I'm reading that some buyers are hesitating, thinking that a crash is coming. So I'll pay the lower rate, I'll pay the lower price then.
Yeah, but that's been around for a while. The bubble thing has been
Yeah.
there. But I think what was startling in the last 30 days has been the changes to the mortgage
Yep.
side of it, and that basically priced out about 20 to 25% of the buyers into the
Can
marketplace.
you provide a recap of all the changes that have gone through, and what do you think the impact is going to be?
Well, I think the overall impact is that it's going to, they now have to qualify based on a higher level rate for the buyers coming into the marketplace. So that there's some other factors into it, but at the end of the day, the part that's going to impact the buyers the most will be that they have to now qualify at a higher rate.
Have any of your agents had buyers that actually dropped in the price that they're looking?
They've had to, absolutely.
Really? Because most people get qualified on the higher rates anyway, quietly.
Well, that's the way it was before, but there have been those who were qualified on the lower rates, and it has impacted.
Oh,
It's not
okay.
on a high level, but when you're talking an office, it's going to impact agent.
First-time buyers mostly.
First-time buyers
And
mostly.
That's
Yeah.
the biggest issue.
And even we had CMHC, and although I don't always agree with the things that CMHC says, they're definitely pushing that those first-time buyers are going to be fueled into that, fueling the condo side of it still, which is good to know. We have like 10 condo buildings going up in Mississauga shortly, and more to come after that. So that's going to be the size of it. I think the real question is where price is going to go. And that I think we will shed some light on in the coming months as we see where that goes. Has some of the steam taken out? I don't know.
There's a time of year when things quieten down anyway.
So it's hard to measure it
yeah,
by
it's- Let's wait till February and see what that's happening.
We are
then.
still seeing multiple offers. We are still seeing over asking on private. It's just we're not seeing 15, 20 offers.
Yeah.
We're now seeing 4 or 5 offers. We're not seeing 150 over asking. We're seeing 20, 30, 40 asking.
Yeah.
Or for sale price, the listed price, and a little bit less.
So at the same time that we're going through this part of the market though, the population is getting older, right? And I know where I am, the number of retirees that are moving out has shrunk. Has shrunk. People are staying put.
When you
right?
say
People are
out,
staying-
moving from Toronto out to
Moving-
your way,
yeah,
or
yeah,
moving out of their homes?
I'm moving out of their homes to move to where I
okay.
live anyway, you know, and that's been a big part of my business over the years. And a lot of the folks that are staying and not selling this year or last year, they're 2 years older now, right? You know,
Right,
so
right.
at some point, they're gonna have to, or are they gonna have to?
We're seeing that a lot more of the seniors niche starting to come into play as they're looking to retire, selling their homes. We're getting a lot more estate sales. We're getting more sons, daughters stepping in to help the parents with, because now sell the home and to help them along to whatever the next stage. So that's a segment that we've been seeing a lot more than we've seen in previous years. So
Yeah,
that
because of
may
the
be-
age of Mississauga.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that may be an area to target then, if someone.
Well, I think there's definitely opportunity there.
Sure, sure.
And, you know, several people like Chris Newell and Barry Lebo initially with their seniors programs, I think they're showing more relevancy now than they've ever done in past years. And it's good that some agents are taking advantage of that and specializing on how they can help that sector of it, because they do need a little bit of special attention.
So let me ask a question. Obviously, aging population is a big concern because we're going to actually start seeing more and more people looking for specialized housing even.
Yeah.
So we're talking about the next year. What about in the future? Where do you see the housing stock going? Are we going to start seeing more and more people actually renovating properties rather than selling and moving out? What do you guys think? I'll start with Sandy.
Well, I just sold a house last year to some friends of mine that we moved them into a house that can accommodate them growing older. One of the members of the household has health issues, so we bought a house in Whitby that is actually set up that they can have hired medical help living in the house. Kind of like when you started out and had little kids, that's a nanny suite. Well, now this is the nanny for as you get older, so they don't have to move out of their house. They don't have to go condo as quickly as possible. They're also, and this is a consideration too, is they wanted the type of house that if one of them passes away, the other one could still manage the house. It was small enough. They were coming from the large 2-story, 4-bedroom home. So they wanted one. So I'm finding that clients now are looking more to the future rather than, oh, it's a pretty house, I want to live there. They're now managing their whole lifestyle and their future medically by the style of house that they're buying.
Health is playing a part in it too,
Yeah.
in the serviceability of the home.
So it's quite a few factors that we have to be taking care of. I know you might not like this, but some of my friends say they want to move out to the country. And we have to look at, are there any health issues? What sort of hospitals, medical assistant is close by.
Absolutely, that's a big
It's like,
concern.
it's great, it's romantic to take a drive in the snow, and it's pretty, and the leaves and trees, and, you're so used to living downtown that you want to move out there where the cows are, but it's like, you have to be where the doctors are. And it's like, I never thought of that. And these
Oh,
are
absolutely.
factors that we have to remind them.
Nelson, any thoughts on the aging population conversation?
I think it's a growing segment. I think it's something that will continue as we see more as an aging population. I don't have the numbers on exactly how many they are, but I think we're starting to see even outside of the major centers, builders now starting to acknowledge that for wheelchair needs and bungalows and that. But we are still constrained by the amount of available land for development. And we've talked, the media's talked a lot about the green space around the major centers, that they need to open that up. I'm not here to advocate it or against it, but one of the things we are having difficulty is getting available space. Look at the city that we're in right now. Mississauga is full. We go across into Oakville, Burlington, Milton. They're pretty full right now and continuing to expand. And then what happens is you don't go wide anymore. Now you start to go up. It's inevitable.
Right. And speaking of Asian population, one of the things that you guys are going to be able to do with our new tool is you're going to be able to specify that I want my clients to live where there's a majority of an older population. So with the demographic data that we have for the entire Canada, you'll be able to actually specify exactly when you're getting listings for your clients that you want to have your clients live in that area.
That's cool.
It's funny that we're talking about aggregating the big data that's coming in. It's been in the US, they've been doing that now for a few years.
Yeah.
But our size in Canada didn't allow proportionally to be cost effective for systems like yours to be able to deliver it. So it's kind of nice to see that you are like going down that direction, because that data previously, like when we look at it, Dave, like what we used to do for websites, it was just very basic stuff, right?
Yeah, sure.
Now it's telling you how long it's going to take you to get to work. It's going to tell you how long it takes you to brush your teeth. It's telling you all of these things, and it'll be interesting to see how consumers engage. See, I'm curious about what that data is going to do, not just from the real estate perspective, but how much are consumers engaging with that data?
Yeah.
How is that? If I'm sitting in China right now and I'm thinking of relocating to Mississauga, how important is that information? Am I going to use it?
I think agents are going to use it a lot more than clients themselves, because they might not necessarily understand really how to utilize that data best. But if you know your client the best that you can, and you know what type of home they want, then you're going to be able to use a lot more of that data to really find and focus into the home that you really want to find that client. But in a general sense, a person who just gets into buying a home and jumps on a website, I don't believe that they are going to be the ones using it the most. I think the people that are going to be using it the most are going to be the agents themselves.
Yeah, they won't know they need it, whereas
No,
the
they
agents
won't.
know that they need it.
No, and they won't really understand it to the level that the agents can understand it. So I think that the majority of the usage of that kind of data is going to be on the agent side. And not to mention, but one of the biggest issues that we've had with this data is that it hasn't been accessible to us as a company.
Yeah.
So we've just acquired this deal. This was done 3 days ago, literally, where I finished the meeting in Toronto, and they finally allowed us, because prior to this, the issue was with the licensing and how they get the license of data. The problem with it was that it always has to be the end user who actually pays for the data. So we figured out a way to make us the end user, meaning that the clients and the agents are really not the end user. So we're the end user here. We're paying a large fee for the license instead of having agents pay the license fee on an individual basis. And now doing that, we have the ability to program all that stuff into our search and into our functionalities.
But you can do that because you can leverage all of the, because you're a large website provider and probably one of the largest in Canada. So you can do that because of the size, and that's always
We've
the benefit.
contacted them even before, but they wouldn't license it to us at all. They didn't want us. They didn't want to deal with us. They wanted to
Interesting.
deal with the agents directly. However, 4 or 5 years have passed since then, and they've realized, looking at the number of agents as clients they have is very small, and they can't sell it to an agent individually, because the license just to get it set up for an agent at that point was $7,000 just to get set up, and about $50 a month for the agents themselves. And no agent would be willing to pay
Yeah.
$7,000 just to have the data, and then they would have to pay a provider like us to program it into their actual website.
Yeah.
So none of them wanted to do that. So what they did with us is just really place a hefty fee on us, and then and change the licensing terms a little bit to be able to actually license it to us and make us the end user there, and then provide that service to the clients.
Isn't it ironic that we're actually talking about data, getting it to the agents, having the agents interpret it of how it can best serve their clients, when that originally was perceived as the biggest threat to real estate agents is all the technology. They can just go online, they can get all the information themselves, so we don't need an agent. It's like, really?
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
One of the things that I want to mention that, I mean, one of the recent stats that came out of Inman is that the listings on the private for sale sector have fallen
Yes.
in the States. And they are going to fall here as well. Everything follows within Canada. But that's interesting to see that sector has really fallen. And a lot of people are really scared of that sector and saying that it's going to take over, it's going to really, but it really truly is not the case.
No.
And,
Yep.
and, that's
No, it's
part of that.
funny actually. There's actually been a whole bunch of property guys.
Yeah.
Yep.
Actually going bankrupt all over.
Yep.
I personally know of 2 brokerages, 2 ranches that have actually gone bankrupt. So
Interesting.
there is quite a bit of stress that is being placed on them. And why do you think that reason is? What's happening? What's changing in the marketplace that is causing that?
I'll make one point of that. I mean, one of the things when people are seeing that properties are going over value by $100,000, and the agents are the ones driving that.
Yep.
How is a person who lists their own property going to be able to drive that? They have no experience in that. They have no way to do it. So why does it make sense for me to list with somebody and save $5,000 when I'll lose $100,000 on the actual deal itself? It doesn't make sense. So one of the facts could have been that that they're kind of falling on the level of properties they can acquire on an individual basis because properties are selling for a lot more because agents are bringing that.
It's a scary time to be a seller. It's a scary
Yeah.
time to be a seller.
Well, it's actually, I think it's a great
Yeah.
time to be a seller.
Well, to a certain extent, they
then you
have
have to
so many
buy.
options, but not always options that are maybe in their benefit for them.
No.
And I think that skews the numbers a little bit. Companies like, like the property guys or other companies that provide that type of service, they skew it because they're neither really a full-service brokerage or a FSBO, so it kind of throws the numbers off a little bit. And I don't think the U.S. necessarily has that in their marketplaces down there.
So let's change the momentum a little bit altogether. And Nelson, outside of technology, you've got you're a big office, right? You've got lots of agents.
Yeah, we're not big by some standards, but 50 agents keeps
Sure.
me busy.
And they're productive.
Yeah, we've got a
I'm
good
sure
cross-section.
they're not all active online.
No, actually, we encourage whatever is their field that they want to specialize in.
Absolutely. So in the last year, have you seen agents, is there anything that you can share that agents are doing that isn't online, that has been maybe different or having more success than maybe it would have had in the last 4 or 5 years?
Well, for us, it's not that there's anything new, because there really doesn't seem to be. There's some advancements in technology, but still the core basics, as Sandy said, and we all kind of have learned, is it's still the core basics of the business are there. A large part of the business, and in ours we track every deal that comes through with the software system that we have, and we know that still 75% of the business is done with past clients, repeat, referral-based spheres. As much as some people who sell bright, shiny things want us to go down these other roads, the reality is that's still the core of the business that we get to. One thing we have seen this year kind of start to enter the marketplace, and it didn't make the big splash that everybody thought it was going to be, and I think because they underestimate the learning curve for the industry on a large scale. It was paperless solutions where in managing the transaction. Initially people thought, okay, once this gets passed, everybody's going to jump on the bandwagon, and it's not the case. What we've seen is there's been a transition to it, and I think it's probably going to take 2 to 3 years before you see some commonality and consistency. We've had pushback from clients, we've had pushback from other agents who are afraid of the technology. So we've seen that come through this year but I think that will grow. In our office in the Mississauga marketplace, deals that have come in from outside and inside, we're sitting somewhere around the 20-ish% of transactions being done paperless.
When you say paperless, are you talking about e-signatures or
E-signatures,
Yeah, right,
e-signatures, yeah.
And the other issues that people are having is these different providers are really not capable of talking to each other. They need to make that option where if I have one provider and you have another provider, we can have that document be signed by yours and mine as well. And that's
It's funny, I'm smiling because one of the things I said last year when paperless was like going to be the big bright shiny thing was, I said, number one, there's too many of them for the Canadian marketplace. We always like to compare ourselves to the US, but we're 10% of their population.
Right.
They can sustain 10, 15 different providers, where when you're 35 million people across Canada, you can't sustain that. So I don't anticipate that the current players that are all in the marketplace may be there down the line. And even in our office, we've got different people using different platforms because there's so much happening in the different spaces.
Sure. I think too, though, that it becomes a function of education.
Absolutely.
And I meet all kinds of agents who, like today, it's almost like Buyer Agency was years ago. There's just, they rolled it out, but they didn't do a very good job of helping people understand how they could actually use it. And so the providers are left to do that, and they're all trying to sell stuff, right? So you end up with everyone telling you how wonderful theirs is, and agents aren't necessarily thinking about how is this going to work with my workflow. And actually try it out and say, is this going to work for my clients? Is this going to be easy for my workflow? Is this going to make my business easier or harder? And too often it seems like I run into agents that are just, they say they buy the bright shiny one or the one that their friends said they should use, and it's not always effective.
True, because there's a lot of difference between all the platforms.
Absolutely.
But I do think that within the next 2 to 3 years, you're going to see much wider adoption of paperless solutions, and whether it's e-sig or transactions, managing the transactions. I think there's no doubt we're moving in that direction, but there's got to be commonality, as you said, in platforms. You're using one provider, I'm using another one. We're having to learn all of them. So,
well, definitely. It's like with website providers and CRM systems. If I have a website, there's agents that use all sorts of CRM systems. So
Correct.
what I've done as a website provider is tap into and feed these CRMs. I'm not going to have my clients be stuck to my CRM if they don't like it. Because there's other CRMs that are out there that are awesome. Top Producer is one of the best ones out there. And if an agent is used to using one CRM, they better stick to it. Because switching to another CRM is going to be a complete headache. So I will feed these leads to that CRM instead of them doing it manually. And that's what these providers need to do. They need to start cooperating together. They need to start working together, because if they don't, I don't think it's going to work out.
They won't survive.
Well, no, but I think, just the way you're saying that, Otto, if I may, one provider doesn't have to talk to another one. I hear that from agents. They'll say, well, if I use DocuSign and someone else is using Dotloop or Repri or something, how does that work? And the answer is, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You send it off to your client, they send it back to you, and then you just email it to the next down the line, and they use whatever they want to use. It doesn't.
There's a manual procedure to it. There's going to be a manual procedure where you have to export it as a PDF or save it as a PDF and then email it to me, and then I have to put it into my.
I know. Everyone makes it sound so hard. Like it's so much easier than standing by a fax machine. I mean,
exactly.
There are a couple of
It
steps.
can
That's
be
right.
so easy with the fact that if I submit my signed document, I can just say, okay, send it to you, and you're going to open it right inside your document, right inside your application. So it can be seamless.
Well, it certainly can be seamless.
But I think it will be.
Do you think that's a goal?
I don't think it'll be intentional, but I think if they want to remain competitive, they will. And because like I said, I don't think we'll see how it plays out, but there'll be commonality in some of the platforms.
Who's the biggest provider right now? Who's the top dog out
I think
there?
they'd all argue that one.
DocuSign is the name of it.
Yeah.
But based on the ones we've run through our office and we've checked the providers, DocuSign is by far the most commonly used.
Microsoft uses DocuSign as well. So it's not only for real estate.
Oh, no, it's not even. It's not real estate.
Oh, no, they're beyond that.
But all it is simply an electronic signature platform.
On a PDF.
It's not trying to be your CRM. It's not trying to be
No,
your
it's
client,
not.
Right?
It's not.
It's just an electronic signature platform. So if your workflow, and my workflow works well for that, because I want to review my docs before I send them out, and when they come back, before they go on to the next guy, I want to see them again.
Yeah.
I want to check them, right? So I'll download them as a PDF and go over them, and then I'll forward that PDF to the next agent. And I wouldn't want one that went automatically over. Just, I would fight that seamlessness of it, just so that I have more control, and I know that it's just it's happened where the client can't miss-sign. They can only do what you ask them to do, but it's happened where I've missed a page.
Yep.
And when I came back, there was one page didn't have initials on it because Dave messed up with that, right? And I wouldn't want that to carry through.
And that's where I think, again, paperless solutions, e-signatures, Transact, all of that failed to deliver all the anticipation around it, but is there and will continue to grow in the coming year. And I see wide adoption at that stage. I can foresee in the near future that you're going to see a high percentage of transactions being done that way.
Well, it sure makes life easy.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It sure makes life easy, no question about it.
I want to pick on Sandy a little bit and see what
Sure.
her thoughts are on paperless. Have you implemented something like that already in your system? What's going on?
Yes, I actually am paperless, but I do it in a format that my older clients can actually understand. It's not the standard. I actually have them sign their signature and their initials. I turn it into an Acrobat stamp. I create the document, I stamp it, I send it to them, and I say, please review the attached document. We speak of it over the phone, this is what the offer is going to be, I put it all, stamp their initials, and I can act as a witness because I was the one that watched them sign the piece of paper to create their name into a thing. Stamp it, send it off. They just say, I approve this document and I authorize my signature. They send it back to me. Even the old lawyers who really aren't on to DocuSign and a little tiny stamp with the initials, they don't know that it's not. And I have double checked it and it's legal and binding. And the older ones think it's just cool because it's their signature.
Awesome.
And you want to comment on that?
I think it's cool. I think it shows that we're in the transitional stage of going to that, and we'll see what that holds as we go forward. There's no one solution that's the right one for everybody.
Yeah, you can't jam something down someone's throat, so you have to read your people. And
that's what I think is key. What you just said, you have to read your
You have to
people.
read your people.
Because at the end of the day, it's about them.
because you can't race past their progression level, their comfort level.
Yeah.
And they're quite used to, here, sign here, where do I sign? So to me, this is a progression of, that's your signature where you normally would have signed, read it carefully, if you have any questions, go over everything, and then they like it that at the end of the deal, it is their signature on it. And I explained to their lawyers of what I've done, And then I tell them that your signature is destroyed. I won't be stamping your checks and running off to Mexico with all your hard-earned money. And they're comfortable with it.
That's a fantastic concept. I hadn't heard of that one before. And there will be people who would argue that it may not be as legal and as binding and as true as a timestamp and an ISP, a location and geotech and all that stuff. But your client is comfortable doing it, and that's the one who ultimately is going to say they didn't sign.
Well, it is.
So they're sure they signed,
Yeah.
and it's got to be okay.
And it is a legal signature because IBM doesn't have someone hand sign all the paychecks.
No, I understand.
In other words,
Yeah.
and that's what the lawyer said is, it only becomes an issue if someone says that's not my signature.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's the only time it's going to be a problem. That's-
Exactly.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. So that's really cool. That's really cool. Ask another question, Addie.
Knock it out of the park.
Let's talk a little bit more about technology. What are the other things that you see coming down the pipe that is, I'm going to pick on Otto this time. What are the other things that you see coming down the pipe that are actually going to change the market or you think are going to be a game changer?
So I'm gonna go out there. I'm gonna go way out there. Here's what I project. Here's what I think is gonna happen in the next 10 years, if I can say 10 years. I think people are not going to have to go into homes anymore to see them. I think we're gonna have our VR goggles on, and we're gonna go to a website, and we are going to walk through a home as if we were there, because the cameras are gonna be able to record in such a way. And people are not going to have to really drive out there to show homes anymore. Agents are not going to have to do that. They're just going to have to provide the access online to present that, and I think that's where technology is going to go as far as real estate goes.
I can see a tech guy saying
I
that.
want to go to Nelson and pick his brain. What do you think about that?
I don't think you're talking 10 years for that. I think we're on the edge of that technology. I think we could see it 4 to 5 years from now. That you're going to be going. Like, it's just a lot of that will come to the processors on the computers to keep up, right? Like as they get faster and
Well, it's
faster.
not, yeah, from a technology perspective, it's really easy to do, but it's from an adaption perspective. I don't think that agents are going to adapt it that quickly because it's going to be an expensive piece of technology right off the bat. So I'm not sure. I think within the next 10 years, it's going to be completely out there, and every property that gets listed is going to be like that. But in the next 4 or 5 years, I think.
See, and I think you'll be able to do it in less. I do agree with you, but I think you'll be in less.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, and I think we'll see that sooner. One thing that I do think that is that'll be a game changer, as you said, Adi, is I think it has kind of gotten into the background is the Competition Bureau. I think that will lay to rest a lot of arguments and things that have been happening for far too long. It seems like I've been hearing about the Competition Bureau since I've been in real estate practically. So I don't think it so matters so much what the decision will be, but I think it'll be, well, I think it does to some people because they want to publish the sold data, but I think a final decision on that will have an impact and could change how websites present information. So if the ruling comes out that solds are to be published, I think that will change some of the platforms. That'll change how you guys provide. But I think you guys are already set up for that in the event that that's passed, right? I would think most providers will.
We already set up.
Yeah,
We already set up
well,
for
it'd
it,
be
although,
wise.
I mean, as far as the decision on Treb's side, we're completely Treb on this one. I mean, whatever Treb really decides that they want to do, they want to do. So when it comes to sold data, I mean, they're holding on to that sold data now. Will it come out later on? We don't know.
Honestly, I think it's going to be, I want to say a moot point, but I think what will happen is there'll be a lot of hoopla around it for the first 3, 4, 5 months. And then because it'll be available, I don't see it as being very different than the arguments that we had in the early 90s about publishing active listing data. Once everybody's got it, it kind of loses its competitive edge. So the sold data, once that comes out, if it's put out and the Competition Bureau ruling comes out that to release it, it'll be available to everyone. Whether or not it's good for the industry or all of that, we're not arguing that point. That's a separate discussion. But I think that will change some things on systems and how we go forward.
It's been available in the States for a long time. So sold data, when we go into the U.S. boards, which we're doing now with expanding, we're finding that all the boards, well, most of the boards have sold data already. And they're providing it into the website provider.
But it's horrible. Like,
Sold before it's closed?
No. Sold in terms of when the actual sale comes, they're notified the provider that the property is
Once
sold
it's
and what it's
registered.
sold for. So what it's sold for. Not necessarily sold conditional is different. So until the actual deal is done, we don't get reports on what the sale price is.
No, I realize that, but down in the States, people talk about, when you read online to the general public that wants the information, and they're saying, well, it's on Zillow, it's on this. Zillow doesn't get a sold price until it's closed. And that's what we are trying to protect is and I'm on Urban Toronto, I'm on different websites, trying to explain to people, we're not trying to control the data. What we're trying to do is keep between when a property sells and before it closes, that's a very crucial time period in case that deal falls apart.
Right.
It works against the homeowner if that goes out to the public.
But I think we've reached agreement on that part is going to be, whatever's decided, that part will be held confidential. It's after that becomes an issue. And to speak to your point in the US, we hear a lot, we read a lot about stuff, but I find their system to be terrible for collecting that data.
Right.
We're told that they have all of this data and that they can go online. I was in Florida and I've been in New York State where I've tried to see properties around that are available for sale on Zillow,
Right.
Trulia at the time that was there, and I found those platforms to be horrible for providing the sold data, even though we're being told online and in different mediums that, oh no, it's perfect, they can access. In one case, when I was in Florida, I was just trying to find out what a house on the water was listed for.
Right.
I checked Zillow, I checked Realtor.com, I checked their website. I couldn't find the data. So all this talk about how easy it is to get in the States, I think we give it sometimes too much credit, because I know personally, I went nuts, and to this day, I still don't know what that house was listed
and
on.
it
Call
goes
an
from
agent.
state to state.
Yeah, well, I would have had to.
Exactly.
It's so different from state to state, and
Yep.
one of the things, Manhattan doesn't have an MLS at all.
Exactly.
Which is interesting. I didn't even know that until I was at the summit just the a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, don't they have a couple of boards, little tiny?
No, Manhattan.
They have no
Manhattan,
MLS
no.
whatsoever.
It's all exclusive. Yeah.
Wow.
Newfoundland only has an MLS in half the province.
Really?
Yeah, and that was, I think the last time it was about 10 or 12 years old, otherwise before that it didn't happen at all.
I want to touch back on that thing that an IT guy was talking about as far as predicting that people will just look at pictures online and buy it. I disagree with that. I do it partially with my own listings. I will put up a website for it. I'll have 75, 100 pictures. There's 4 pictures of every room from every angle. They walk through and it's a natural flow of as if I'm showing them. Then we go up the stairs, downstairs, and then all outside.
Yep.
People always say when they phone me, when they see those pictures, is, they now want to see it because of it. So I regard that as my first showing. But I still feel that it's fine for investment properties, and it might be fine for buying a condo. But for an actual home, not a house, but a home, people still want, they want the 3D, they want the touch it, they want to feel it,
Before
they
they
want to
buy it,
pretend I'm living there, they want to see where the kid's playing while they're cooking.
I agree with you
I-
from that perspective.
Yeah.
Before they actually buy, before they really put that money in, they're going to want to take a look at it.
No, to me, that's the hook.
Rely.
Once I
But-
can get them inside, then
Right.
they fall in love.
But they'll be able to. So have you tried VR before? The goggles?
Yeah.
You have. So it's
Scary.
It's so real.
Yeah.
It's so everything is so real. So
Yeah.
the fact that you're going to be able to walk through the house, I think agents are going to show properties a lot less, but they will still have to go show them the ones they're going to
But
buy.
how
That's
is that
where you
any-
close them.
Yeah, but how is that any different than that person who's sitting on the other side of the ocean who's buying 10 condos that's going through that online?
Well,
So
it's very different.
Well, they don't care.
It's only, the
It's no warmth.
significant difference is Sandy's helping someone buy a home, and the person you're talking about is buying an investment.
true,
Yeah.
good point.
There's very different, it's very
But to
different.
that person who can't come to Canada to view the home, or it'll be sold by the time he books the ticket to come
Yeah.
here.
Right.
Well, it's a
They-
great
they almost
concept.
don't have
Yeah.
a choice.
It's a
right?
great concept.
In this market, by the time that property comes on the market, they run to the airport, they book a flight, they come
Gone.
here, it's already sold.
Yeah, I had to do it the old-fashioned
So-
way. I had to drive 2 doctors up from Chatham, and they said, well, we'll come and look at it on the weekend. I said, it won't be here on the weekend, so they literally had to drive up, take time off, drive up. They got caught in a baseball game traffic coming in, fighting all the way, had a look at it and bought it that evening, and then they went home. But that's what I said, is it won't wait.
So let me ask a question.
Yeah, just for a moment.
Yeah.
Because something's happened that's really significant for us here this evening. We have someone watching in Ottawa, Larry, and he said, just before you made your point, he typed in, are you suggesting that the buyers will make their buying decision without visiting the property?
Oh,
And there's
I
a
did.
27-second delay, right? So I think, Larry, thanks so much for being in Ottawa and tuning in. Sorry, Patty, carry on. Let's get this working.
Well, my question was in regards to like services that are coming about that like Matterport and a lot of the 3D services that are coming about.
Yeah.
The integration of that with virtual tours and VR sets. What do you guys think? Like you really are not going to have buyers coming in and taking a look at it? I still think there's no substitute for that. You're still
Exactly.
gonna have buyers coming in and taking a look at it. But
Oh,
it's
sure.
I'll make a point of that. I mean, when I bought my first home, we looked at 50 homes, literally. We drove to 50 homes and
I
picked
hate
them.
them.
Who's your agent?
Linda, I forget her name, last name.
Whatever.
Was that real? So here's the thing. We looked at the first house. The first house we looked at, we said we're putting an offer. The very first one, and she says to us, "Are you serious? Wait, look, there's a lot more we can see." No, we love the house. Let's put an offer. We put an offer in. The house was on the market for 3 months. All of a sudden, the 3 other offers appeared at the same time when we put our house.
What a coincidence.
Stop that.
And I thought it was nonsense. I
Was
thought
she
it
the
was
listing
BS.
agent?
No, here's the thing. I thought it was nonsense as well, and I said no. I'm sticking to my price. I'm not changing it. We offered what it is, and we lost the offer. So
Yep.
there was 3 other offers on the house, and it got sold for more than what was listed. And this goes back. This was holy right, 2004-5. So after that house, we ended up seeing 49 more before we ended up buying the home that we.
Curious, did they all fit the criteria that you had given your agent?
So the first 15 did.
Oh, okay.
And then after that, we had to expand that criteria because we couldn't really find
Yeah.
the property we were looking for. And not only that, but we went back and looked at houses that we already looked at before, just to re-look at it again because we had no more houses to look at.
Yep.
So it's going to avoid that. I think this technology, the VR technology, is going to help the clients and help people really look at a home before they even get into it to decide and narrow it down. Instead of looking at this many, I'm going to look at these 3 because I feel these are the ones that are going to really.
See, we're doing that now. We're only showing 3 because that's all that's there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
well,
there's 2 by the time you get there.
Yeah.
To that point, however, internet has really changed that for you because
Yeah.
internet, it's so widely accessible that you can look at listings online. They're not even going to you. They're finding properties and sending them to you, saying, "Sandy, I want to take a look at that one." Is that not the case?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly.
So, even though you might be showing them much less when you're sending listings, they're really out there looking on their own. So
I
And
can't,
that's important to note.
I can't imagine anyone who's actually buying a home though not walking through it before they buy it. I can't.
Oh, it happens.
And knowing, because the pictures you take may not show the train tracks next door. you know,
investors
or-
don't know.
That
Investors
type of thing, you know.
I mean, that,
Yeah, but the
that's a good
pictures
point.
but you can verify now. You just have to go to Google Earth now.
Yeah, Google
You can
Earth,
see
Google
exactly-
Street View.
Yeah, it's a highway right
You see
behind.
everything around you. That's true.
No, I tend to
touche, yeah.
disagree. I think you will see much more. It's still not going to be the majority, but I'll give you an example. I was in Europe this summer, and I'm sitting talking with a relative, and he goes, "Oh, I just bought a house on such and such an island." And I said, "You bought a house?" And he goes, "Yeah." And then I go, "How'd you do it?" He goes, "Well, I saw it on the internet. I did my research on it, and I made an offer at 1,000 agents."
It's incredible. I mean, the fact that 46,000 agents, and I'm going to assume that a fairly large percentage of them have never even gone through the process of buying a home on their own.
Yep.
That's one of the
That's an
prerequisites that I
interesting
think
point. I
should
never
be
thought
part
of it
of
from that.
Part of before you get a license, you have to show proof that you've actually gone through the purchase process.
You understand what a mortgage is. You understand the anxiety. You have to.
There's a lot of them, and we find them as clients. I mean, that we get people all the time that come in
That's
as
an
clients.
interesting point because when we look at the numbers, 25% of the agents, about 12,000 agents,
Right.
haven't sold a single home
Right.
in a year.
And not only that, but they've never gone through the process of even buying one for
So
themselves.
Would you
that
buy a
only
car from
magnifies-
someone who takes the bus because they've never learned to drive?
Absolutely not. And that's the clients out there, so buyers and sellers out there need to start asking their agents, do you own a home? Do you own any investments? What's your real estate portfolio like before you actually go through the process of realizing that?
Oh, absolutely.
When I'm in competition, if I know that I'm going up for a listing and they're interviewing other people, I will advise them. Ask them if they've ever bought before. Ask them if they own. Ask them if they know the anxiety of making mortgage commitments. Find out if they're living in their parents' basement.
See, I find that true when I'm working with investors. Investors are always curious about what is your portfolio,
Yes.
what does your portfolio look like.
How much do you believe in it?
Yeah, like 9 times out of 10 when I'm marketing an investment property, they look at me and they say, "Why are you not buying it?"
Yep.
I'm like, "I can't buy every single thing that it is. Come on, you wouldn't have anything to purchase that." So that I find that a lot truer in investment, but when it comes to residential, you don't see that happening a lot.
I don't
think
have that
that's a very
question
valid
posed.
question that should be asked anytime
Absolutely.
anytime anybody's going and doing a listing presentation, they should actually be telling the properties that they own.
But nowadays, in the market we've been in the last 5 or 6 years, getting a listing so you win the lottery.
Yes.
And how often, I think it's the last 6 years, it's been impossible for agents not to meet skills. Not
Yep.
to, like to let their skills either slide, or the newer agents aren't even developing skills. That,
They're only taking the minimum education just to keep their license. They're not taking an extra course for the knowledge.
well, there's that, but also the selling process has changed so much in the last, well, in this market, the selling process has changed so much.
Totally, it's totally a seller's market.
Absolutely.
Stick a
absolutely.
sign in
It's
it.
been that way for too long,
Yeah,
for a
and
very
wait.
long time, and that's gonna, I suppose, when that changes, for whatever reason that may change, whether it's interest rates or whether it's taxes or whether it's inventory changes or whatever it might
Always
be.
change.
Whatever that change is going to be, that's when we're gonna see a real dynamic change in probably in which agents are successful and which agents
Yeah.
aren't.
Yes.
I think then you get the other challenge. I look at the real estate industry or the market as a pendulum. It's never stopped. It's always moving in one direction. It's either a seller's market at one extreme, or back and forth. It goes to the other side to become a buyer's market. If you're in this business long enough, you get to see both.
You can handle.
Yeah, and I think the other thing we're challenged in the Canadian marketplace is that we haven't had a down market. We haven't even had a stable, excuse me, a stable market with prices not moving any direction since the late 90s. We came out of that market with the crash in the early 90s, and we've just seen steady growth and increase, and that pendulum keeps swinging more and more to that side, but it won't go on forever.
Well, one of the points that I was at RBC, put together an event, and they brought their head economist to talk about the market and talk about projections and what's going to happen. And the economist, of course, said that they're anticipating that the market is going to slow down and it's going to have a little bit of a downturn. And then one of the points that one of the guys sitting in the audience made is there a chance that Toronto is going through what Manhattan went through, which is when you look at the property real estate in Manhattan, it's not owned by people who live in Manhattan, it's owned by the outside world. So is that something that's happening in Toronto, which is forcing the people who live in the Toronto to go out into the burbs and then causing the property values to go increase sky high?
Well, one of the things that I've always admired about Toronto, and this is within my lifetime, now I'm a young guy, that Toronto was one of the last cities where you actually could buy a property on a proper street without having multi-generational wealth. And now we're actually getting to the point where you actually have to have multi-generational wealth to actually be able to afford a property
Right.
Yes.
on a main thoroughfare. And I think that's the norm. That's where cities need to be. This is just Toronto maturing right now. And we're actually seeing, okay, this is where we should have been a long time ago, but it just took a little while to catch up.
Based on the size of the city, I mean,
Yeah.
I think there's a good chance that it's actually going there. We don't know, obviously. I mean, nobody. If we had a ball that would tell us, I mean, we'd be doing things on our own, selling or buying, but we really don't know. I don't think anybody knows. But
But I think you're correct in your assessment, and I would say to you that we're very close to that point where we go, I can afford to buy a home in Toronto, or it has to be multi-generational before to be able to live here and
Right.
pushing it. I think you're at that pricing now.
right.
I think we're seeing that when you're like $1 million in Toronto, Eddie, it's nothing.
It's a gut job downtown.
Yeah.
Like everybody's walking around like I'm a millionaire. Well, yeah, like everybody's got like the values that we're seeing are putting in that. So if that's the case, which it could very well be, we're at that point now. The question remains: is in 2017, are we going to see that continue up and move more towards your prediction, or are we going to see it kind of soften up and stay where we are?
Have the values of properties risen up? So, for example, in where you live, Colbert?
Colbert, yeah,
or
60 miles east of
Welland,
here, yeah.
or Port Hope, have the property values increased that high as well up over there?
Maybe up to $1 million, you mean?
Well, not to $1 million, but in percentage-wise. So
Oh.
have the property values actually increased with the same percentage rate?
Property-
I think that's sorry to cut in, Dave.
No,
I think
that's
that's a vehicle of the population growth that you're looking at. In Toronto, we have so many people moving in. On the low end, we
Yeah.
have 60,000 people moving in. Coburg doesn't have anything.
Right, but that's what I'm curious, whether the property values have actually increased in the same rate in terms of if it's gone up here 30% over the past 3 years, has that same thing happened in Colbert?
Our market is about average prices and things,
Right.
Because last month we had like less than 100 houses sell.
Yeah.
Right.
And so if you have 2 or 3 really expensive houses sell, it skews the market, right?
Right.
So rather than say that, I would answer that question this way. There are certain types of houses in our market, bungalows in nice neighborhoods, that have gone up more than 30% in value in the last 3 years.
Right.
But there are certain types of houses, like a large 4-bedroom, 2-story house on a half-acre lot with an in-ground pool, that have probably lost value in the last 3 years because they're a harder house to sell, right? They're just
Right,
like,
of course.
because of the out where we are, we would have had a lot of auto workers buying those houses 10 and 15 years ago,
Right.
and they don't have jobs that they can rely on anymore, you know, type of thing. So they don't go into debt the way they used to. So our market's changing similarly to Toronto, but
Right.
not in the same way. Not for
So
the
not
same
percentage
reasons.
wise, so you're not seeing the
percentage.
same percentage basis?
Oh, no,
going
not
up.
here, not
So I
here.
mean, for investors, I think if they're worried about a crash, and if investors are worried about where to buy the outskirts.
Well, that's
Because
always
they
an
haven't
option,
really,
sure.
if there's gonna be a falling, it's not gonna really fall that much.
Sure.
Well,
But this is
that's already true right now as it is. Like we're seeing investors that are coming in and they're asking, hey, we're looking at 6, 7, 8% cap rates, and I
Right.
laugh at the face. I'm like, if you find something, let me know. I'll buy it.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing in Toronto for that. If you want to look for those, you have to go outside of
Outside.
Toronto. Hamilton is a great marketplace where actually a lot of you could buy deals like that, but not anymore. Hamilton is at 5% cap rate now too. So
Yeah.
there isn't really anything out there unless you're moving 2.5 hours or more outside of the city. That's what you're seeing it.
Well, one interesting thing is Niagara Falls, which they're going to have a GO train going all the way down to the falls by 2023, I believe. I think from an investment perspective, I think Niagara Falls is really looking interesting.
Well, I think the whole Golden Horseshoe between, you know, the Northern Lake, Ontario, going right down to Niagara Falls, I think you're going to see
Yeah.
continued growth there. So that's going to be interesting seeing the GO train go all the way down there. But it's also a sign, like if you get up in the morning and you're going west towards Niagara Falls, they're backed up all the way past Hamilton.
Yeah.
So we're seeing that stuff, and it's
Well, they have to expand south, they can't expand north.
That's true. That's just a fact. And you can't go south. You're going to be going into the water.
Okay. We're just having a glitch.
I
We're back. We're back now. We're here. Okay.
Not my fault.
No. It's been a really remarkable evening. But it's been over an hour. Almost
Really?
An hour and a quarter. Yeah. Now almost an hour and a half. So we should wind it down. Sure. So in 25 words or less, you know, without is there anything in closing either for 2016 or for 2017 that you would just like to say, I'm glad I did this, or I'm glad my folks did this, or I wish I'd done that, or I'm looking forward to doing something?
From my perspective, I see, from the industry, I see continuing growth in the trend of teams. I think we're seeing that, which is, that should be a topic for one evening with you guys. I think we're going to continue to see that, which is just the resurgence. I got to count my words here. I want to make sure I don't go over the
We're a little over now.
25.
Metric,
Okay.
we'll go metric.
I think another thing that's going to come into a factor in the coming year is going to be compliance issues. We're seeing fines levied and brokerages being penalized for both violations of the FinTrack requirements and the CRTC with the do not call lists. So I think compliance will play a stronger part in the profitability of brokerages. So those are some of the things that we're, hopefully the resolution of the Competition Bureau, so we can know what direction to go into and go from there.
Right, once and for all.
Sandy.
I'm seeing more litigation, needless litigation. I think that we're now being set up as a target. I'm finding that a lot of my friends in this industry are being sued needlessly and frivolous cases. I think that buyers and sellers are going to be very jittery this coming year, just because of the fallout from the new rules and regulations.
Right.
I also want that Competition Bureau case to be finalized, so that we can move forward, so that at least we can give people answers. But I still believe strongly, and this isn't wishful thinking, I still believe strongly in the Toronto market. I think it's just going to keep climbing.
I think I just want to give a word of advice to all the real estate agents out there that want to get into internet leads. I can't stress enough the one thing that you have to do, which is learn how to qualify. Before you get into internet leads, don't get into internet leads until you've called 100 people by cold calling. So that's number one. And then number two, look at the competition out there. There's a ton of lead providers out there. Agent Locator, my company, number one. Commissions Inc., market leader, Boomtown, Real Estate Webmasters. There's a ton of companies out there. Look at them all, see what fits for you and what makes most sense, and and go with,
Just one thing to add to the internet providers, if they're US based, you gotta factor in the US currency exchange as well.
Yes, yeah.
So if you're comparing apples to apples, you gotta factor that, hey, if I'm using a US provider,
You're paying US dollars.
you're paying US dollars, so that's a factor.
Right on, right on.
but check it all out.
Excellent, thank you. And thank each of you for coming out tonight and being patient enough at the beginning and carrying on this great conversation while we were monkeying around with our technology. I think
We had fun.
hoping you'll be able to watch this when you go home tonight instead of soccer. And
Yeah, right.
No,
Yeah,
no, no.
no, no, no.
No,
see how it all
no.
turned out. See how it all turned
Maybe
out.
tomorrow at coffee.
Go TFC, by the way.
Yeah.
But we had people watching
Do you know
out
the
there,
sport?
and
It's just started.
and we have it looks to me like it was a very great success, and we have to thank Otto for that because Agent Locare were great enough to step forward and give us the technology help that we were looking for last month, and it looks like it's going to work for us, and that's great. And this is our last broadcast of 2016. So, Addie,
Yeah.
thanks so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
It's been a great. It's been a hard year, but a great year. Been an interesting year in a lot of ways, but it's been fun. 2017 is going to be phenomenal. We got just tonight we generated 6 new topics to talk about. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's
So
just
we ended the
amazing.
year. We ended the year.
You
That's
ended the
all.
year,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's
Yeah,
exactly
great.
it. So this is our end of the year, and we're actually looking forward to next year now.
Yeah.
Are there
I
any
think it's
questions
gonna
from
be-
the audience?
There was we had a fellow in Ottawa who asked a couple of questions, which ironically were answered because there's about a 26 to 35 second delay,
No.
and he was asking questions as we were answering the questions he was asking.
Oh, cool.
Which is really sweet. And one thing that he did say was he said. I like Sandy's comments on this one. The touchy-feely will always be necessary for buying a home.
Agreed.
The
So, Sandy, I'm
warmth.
so glad you came out tonight, and I'm so glad you found your voice. It was excellent.
And thank you very much for taking me out of my scary place, David. It
Yeah.
was just,
That's great,
It's
that's great.
appreciated.
Oh,
Nelson's
stop,
been,
we're gonna cry.
Oh yeah. That is getting mushy, so we better go.
So Sandy was
No,
camera.
I'm very
Alright,
excited
let's
to
go
sign
on,
off.
let's go to
Alright,
camera.
thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
no, he's been trying to get me on to do a video
There
for
you
like
go.
2 or 3 years. Like,
No,
no.
that was excellent. That's what it looked like.